back, everybody, to Pod of Thrones. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jennifer.
I love how you say that. So today is going to be season 4 in 30 minutes. That's coming up.
Whoop whoop.
Things have been kind of cray-cray. I think we're taking next week off. I'm just going to say that now. Looking at the timing of all the episodes and when we want to release certain things, we've got seasons 4, 5, and 6 that we're finishing up. And then we're also doing our special episode 100.
Woohoo!
And I believe that we'll have a pretty cool prize giveaway.
I'm like the one guy in the audience. Woohoo!
There is more than one person in the audience.
Not in our room right now.
They're not all. Oh, okay. Well, if Sophie would just cheer. Dog of Thrones, can you cheer?
Speak. No, she can
you
just
never
stare.
taught her that trick. She can do a few things.
No, she can speak. She sneezes for her speak.
Anyway, so we got all that coming up, and we watch Westworld episodes 9 and 10. But I think those are going to come out as like in the middle of the week. We're gonna drop those because I can't do it before episode 100. We got too much stuff planned. But then once season 7 starts, we're in the thick of it.
We're committed.
I'm sure we'll have other midweek episodes at that point too to discuss all the other fucking shit that's happening.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Oh, it's gonna be crazy.
I cannot wait.
I don't know if you've been looking at any headlines recently.
No,
but I did see there have been quite a few at least in the last week, saying that it looks like some of the season 7 episodes will in fact be longer than an hour. At least one of them is going to be 90 minutes.
Ooh,
so we're not totally
like
getting robbed.
the first one.
We're still getting a little bit robbed, but not as much robbed as I was originally afraid of.
Well, I mean, I'm all for 90-minute episodes. Every one of them should be 90 minutes.
Well, I hope whatever's on 90 minutes comes in on a weekend when we are well rested and have plenty of time, because we still want to record afterwards.
Yes. We'll make it work.
The reaction cast will return, right?
Of course.
We'll post immediately as the episode or we'll talk immediately as the episode ends, and then I'll post it right away after that. And that was a lot of fun last year.
That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. You have anything else exciting to say before this episode?
Happy anniversary.
Yes. Okay. So when you're listening to this, it will be our 5th anniversary of being us.
Us.
We're not married, contrary to popular belief. So sorry for those of you that were hoping that we weren't just living in sin, but we are. But from the moment I asked you out on our first official date, it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy anniversary.
Date-iversary,
whatever. I know it sounds so lame.
We're just a couple of kids.
Yeah, silly ass. You gotta wear my leather jacket and
you could wear my leather jacket. I don't think you have one.
Well, that's true. I never had a jacket.
You got a letter.
Wait a second. What was your leather jacket for, though?
It was for swimming and for track and field manager.
Oh. Wait, were you swimming manager too, or did you actually letter in swimming?
No, I actually lettered in swimming.
Oh, okay. Well, so you were an athlete.
Sort of.
No, I think that counts. Swimming is an actual sport.
Yeah, I know, but it's a different sport.
Okay. Well, whatever. I mean, it's not a contact sport, sure, but it does require a lot of athleticism, whereas my high school lettering achievement was for music.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and look at what you can do now.
I can podcast?
Well, with your fingers in your mouth.
Oh. Well, thank you.
Just like Jon Snow.
Wait, you're just talking about like trombone and guitar
talking.
and talking, right? Right. That's all you meant.
Yeah.
Yes. The piano I played as a child. Piano I played as a child. My fingers are very agile, which is great for podcasting.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. So there you go. I'm so cool. I'm such a cool kid.
Oh, yes, you are.
All right. Anyway, happy anniversary. I love you, babe.
I love you.
Should we get on with the insanity?
Okay.
Here, let's do it.
Okay, episode 1 of season 4, Two Swords. It starts off with Tywin making 2 swords of ice. Imagine that. He throws a wolf scabbard into the fire, and he gives one of the swords to Jaime, and we don't know yet where the other sword is going. But he wants Jaime to rule Casterly Rock, and Jaime says, hell no. Tywin calls him a one-handed man with no family, so I guess he's disinherited him. Oh, Tyrion waits out on the road for the Martells of Dorne to come, and Prince Oberyn is coming instead of
Prince Doran himself.
Oberyn is then at the brothel picking out his entertainment for the night. Then Tyrion wants to know why Oberyn's in King's Landing, and they go for a walk, and he tells them that the Lannisters aren't the only ones who pay their debts. Dany almost gets bitten by, what's this dragon's name?
Drogon.
Jorah tells her dragons cannot be tamed. Sansa is super depressed. She won't eat. Tyrion consoles her, but she just wants to be alone. And then Shae gets jealous again of Sansa and asks if she should leave. Tyrion is silent about it, and then a handmaiden overhears. Jaime gets his Goldfinger from Qyburn and wants to...
It's more than just...
Hey, it's a golden hand, but I liked Goldfinger. He wants to try it out on Cersei. He gets all horny. But Cersei tells him he's too late.
He took too long to get back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the handmaiden shows up and tells them all about Shae. Tormund thinks that Ygritte let Jon go. The Finns arrive at their camp.
And they're cannibals.
Cannibal. We're back over at the wall, and Jon has to go to his trial, and he admits to sleeping with the enemy. He tells them 100,000 wildlings are coming, and they decide not to execute them. Olenna and Marjorie pick out wedding jewelry. Brienne shows up and tells her about the smoke monster. Tells Marjorie about the smoke monster.
Little baby smokestack.
Joffrey is being a little bitch to Jaime and makes fun of him for not having his good deeds in the Book of Knights.
Such a dick. But and we do hear mention of Sir Arthur Dane, who comes into play later, and Duncan the Tall, who is also pretty big in the fiction world.
Tall?
Yeah.
Dario wants to get back on Dany's good side, so he brings her some flowers, which she can make a tea and poison out of, apparently.
She needs to know the land.
They happen upon the crucified slaves, and the burying begins. Then back with Brienne and Jaime. Brienne's mad at Jaime for not keeping the Stark girls safe. And Sir Dontos sneaks up on Sansa and gives her a necklace. Hound and Arya are on their way to the Vale. They're very hungry, and they say Polliver with Arya's sword, and she charges in. Oh, goodness. The Hound knows who he is, and he wants him to join the Knights Guard, and he says, fuck the king. And then this big fight ensues, and Hound ends up killing a bunch of guys. Arya kills a few herself.
She kills Polliver, Lamy style.
Lamy
style, right?
Yo. She says, I think I'll pick my teeth with it. And that's when he realizes.
Funny little sword. I think I'll pick my teeth with it.
He realizes it's her then.
Mm-hmm.
She slowly stabs him.
Right in the neck.
Episode 2, The Lion and the Rose.
Okay, so we start with Ramsay. He's hunting with Miranda, who we met a couple episodes ago, and they are hunting a teen girl. Reek is totally here. He's in full effect now. He is messed up. The hounds, that we will come to know later, wind up eating that poor girl while Reek just twitches. Then we cut over to King's Landing. Jaime is moping that he cannot fight anymore. Tyrion offers up Bronn, and Bronn starts training him with training swords, not real swords. But
in the place where he fucks the guy's wife.
Yes. And Bronn is kicking his butt all over the place, probably enjoying it. Up in the north, Roose Bolton returns to the Dreadfort. We see Walda, his new wife, and he wants to see Theon, a.k.a. Reek. Roose is kind of ticked off at Ramsay for ruining Theon because he was valuable. He was going to trade him. But Reek then confesses to Roose that the Stark boys are still alive, which Roose finds very useful information, and he sends Locke to hunt for them at the Wall. Ramsay, meanwhile, is ordered to take Moat Cailin away from the Ironborn to prove himself worthy.
Mm-hmm. Take the moat.
Let's see. Back to King's Landing. Tyrion needs to get rid of Shae. He knows that now. He's just not sure how to do it. We see the giving of presents to the royal couple, and during the present giving ceremony, Cersei fingers Shae, so to speak. And Tywin says that he wants her brought to his tower before the wedding. Yeek. Tyrion gives Joffrey an awesome-sounding book, and then Tywin gives Joffrey the sword that comes to be known as Widow's Wail, and of course he uses that to turn the book into salad. Then Tyrion dumps Shae, and Bronn is ordered to put her on a boat, and she's very sad. Let's go over to Dragonstone. Melisandre burning people for the Lord of Light, because that's what they do.
They burn Selyse's brother.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And apparently Shireen was listening all along from afar. Pretty fucked up. Selyse asks Melisandre to talk to Shireen, so Melisandre does. It doesn't seem to like it, but she tells Shireen about the two gods, the light and the dark, and she asks about the 7 hells that she's always heard about, and Melisandre says the real world is the true hell. Then we cut over to Bran and company. Bran is spending too much time in summer. He could lose himself. They find a weirwood tree. Bran touches the weirwood tree and he goes all milky-eyed and he has a humongous vision that is mostly scenes from stuff that we've already seen before, but we hear a voice that says, "Look for me beneath the tree, north." But I do want to note that the vision also includes what I've called the open-air Iron Throne with snow everywhere and a shadow of a dragon flying over what appears to be King's Landing, I think. Big dragon.
Wait.
Big dragon.
Right? It's coming.
It's coming. We have the Marjorie and Joffrey wedding. It's very, very elegant. On the way to the reception, Olenna has a little talk with Tywin, warns him about the Iron Bank, which I do believe we're going to see more of in the coming season 7. Bronn tells Tyrion that Shay is gone. She went on a boat. She's gone. Then the reception. Oh, so many things happen. Let's cover them real fast. The big things are Olenna, first of all, totally touches Sansa's necklace when she goes over to say hi to Sansa. That's a thing. Cersei catches up to Brienne, thanks her for getting Jaime home, but also gets really jealous of her and says that Brienne loves Jaime, which Brienne can't refute, and just walks away. Oberyn meets up with Tywin and Cersei, taunts the hell out of them, and then this all ends with Tyrion taking a ton of abuse after the dwarf War of the Five Kings so-called comedy show that offends everybody. Tyrion's made Joffrey's cupbearer, and not too long after that, Joffrey seems to choke to death, although it's poison. We all know that. While he's
purple nurple.
While he's dying, Dauntus comes and takes Sansa and says, "Come with me if you want to live." And then Cersei, as Joffrey passes away, blames Tyrion.
Take him! All right, episode 3, Breaker of Chains. So Joffrey is dead. Yes. Cersei orders them to take him for Tyrion to be in custody. And Dauntus has taken Sansa away in a dinghy where she finds Peter waiting for them in a very dark-looking boat. Baelish then kills Dauntus because he doesn't trust drunks. He promises Sansa she'll be safe. Marjorie and Olenna discuss Joffrey's death, and Marjorie is sad because now she can't beat the queen.
She must be cursed because her husbands keep dying. Horrible.
Just like Catelyn. Cersei and Tommen are on
the Sept of Baelor.
With Joffrey, when Tywin comes in and begins manipulating Tommen, telling him he needs to step it up to be the king, really.
And get married.
Oh, and follow his orders. Cersei wants Jaime to kill Tyrion, and Cersei kisses Jaime, and then Jaime ends up funeral raping her. The Hound wants to go across the narrow sea and become a sellsword. I thought that was cute.
He said he wanted to join the Second Sons, or he might. That's Dario.
The farmer that they find lets them stay the night and asks the Hound to stay on to help, and he steals his silver the next morning.
Because they're weak and they'll be dead soon anyway.
Arya calls him the worst shit in 7 kingdoms. At the Wall, Sam and Gilly talk about the dangers of her staying. He wants her to go to Molestown, and she's not happy about that.
It's a lovely place.
Back in Westeros, Oberyn and the Sand Bitch.
Hold on, you missed the thing about Stannis. He was gloating about how Joffrey's dead because of the Dick Blood Leech thing. Now he's like, what are we going to do, dumbass? And Davos says, well, how about we hire some mercenaries? But they have no money. So then he goes for a reading lesson with Shireen and blah, 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 leads him down a path where he realizes they could try to get a loan from the Iron Bank of Braavos.
Then they can pay for their sellswords.
Exactly.
And then there's the orgy. Okay, so Oberyn and the Sand Bitch are having an orgy while Tywin interrupts. Okay, Tywin questions him about conspiring with Tyrion to kill Joffrey.
Which is silly.
Kind of, but not really. He shows up in town and then the king's dead.
Oberyn's a good guy, though.
Right, but Tywin doesn't know this. Then he asks Oberyn to sit and be a judge on Tyrion's trial and to join the small council.
It's a good gig.
Tyrion's in the dungeon again. Pod visits. He says he knows he didn't kill Joffrey, and Tyrion asks him to get Jaime for him and wants him to leave town for his own safety. Right. Podrick gets all verklempt. The wildlings show up and they're raiding everywhere. They're fucking up everybody. And Finn tells the guy that eats people.
It's the
little boy. Okay, Thins.
And it's Ollie.
Ollie. He tells Ollie that he's going to eat his mom and dad. And he needs to go tell the crows all about it at Castle Black. Dany and friends arrive at Meereen, where she is greeted by a champion who comes out and then he pees at her. And she orders Dario to go fight in her honor. He throws a knife at the horse's eye. That is fucked up.
But effective.
The guy falls off and he kills him. Dany tells the slaves that they have a choice, and then they barrage them with their slave collars.
Yeah, fires hundreds of bits of metal into a crowd. Actually, not
luckily, no one was hurt.
Very dramatic, but geez.
All right, episode 4, The Oathkeeper. Over in Meereen, Missandei is teaching Grey Worm to speak. Grey Worm says Missandei is teacher good. The Unsullied break into the slave quarters where they are holding a slave meeting, and Grey Worm gives them big knives and tells them to kill the masters. And so they do. Dany answers with justice by nailing the masters to the crosses. Bronn is teaching Jaime to fight like a man by the seaside. The two of them discuss whether or not Tyrion killed Joffrey, and Bronn asks him if Jaime will fight for Tyrion. Jaime goes to see Tyrion and tells him that he will not fight for him.
He can. He's the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Don't forget what Tyrion said about Sansa when they were talking about whether or not she could have been the poisoner.
She's not a killer.
Not yet, anyway.
Yes. Baelish and Sansa are on their way to the Eyrie on a boat. He told Sansa that he killed Joffrey to keep his enemies confused, but in the end, he ends up telling her that it's because his new friends want Joffrey dead. And she asks what he wants, and he says,
everything.
Yes.
While stroking her arm.
So creepy. Down by the seaside again, Elena reveals to Marjorie that she sort of kind of may have indirectly killed Joffrey. And Marjorie is now to marry Tommen. Over at Castle Black, Jon is training crows to fight. Janice Slint tells Alliser that he needs to get rid of Jon unless he wants to be taking orders from him in the future. Then Locke is making himself at home while he waits for Bran and Jojen and Mira and Hodor to arrive. Jaime gives Brienne the Valyrian steel sword that Tywin had given him, and he makes her oath to protect Sansa. She says, I'll find her for Lady Catelyn and for you.
So sexy.
Jaime also gives her Podrick, and Brienne names her sword Oathkeeper. Over at Castle Black, Sam is worried about Gilly getting raped, and Locke...
At Molestown.
Oh, right, at Molestown.
The wildlings are raiding places.
Right. Locke overhears Jon and Sam talking about Bran going to Craster's Keep. And Alliser allows Jon to take volunteers out there, and they're going to either take the mutineers back or kill them. Over at Craster's Keep, Carl's drinking out of Mormont's skull. Craster's last baby boy is born, and the girls start chanting, "Give to the gods." Oh, and then Rast takes him into the woods, and he sees Ghost out there and starts taunting him with water. But then everything gets balls cold.
Everything gets balls cold?
Everything gets balls cold, because winter is coming. Hodor is nearby with Bran and all of them, and they hear the baby in the woods crying, and Bran wargs into Summer to go check it out. But then Summer gets trapped, falls into a hole, but not before he notices Ghost in the pen over there. They go investigate and unfortunately get captured by the mutineers, who then taunt and torture poor Hodor. Jojen looks like shit, and Carl threatens Mira while Jojen seizes up and Bran admits he's a Stark. White Walkers who took the Craster's baby trudges really slowly through the snow and ice to reach the White Walker Fortress of Ice.
They've got plenty of time.
And then Fancy Pants White Walker dude comes up and pokes him on the cheek and turns his brown eyes blue. It was really cute.
That was our first time we saw the Night's King, or Fancy Pants. I'm sure that's probably his real name.
Episode 5. The first of his name.
All right, so Tommen is crowned king. He is the first of his name. He's sweet on Marjorie now, and then Cersei butts in, and she actually suggests that Marjorie can maybe help Tommen be a good king. Daenerys, over in the other continent, learns of Joffrey's death, and they're starting to make plans of, like, maybe we could take King's Landing. But Jorah starts telling her about how the Yunkai Masters have returned and are swearing revenge, and Astapor has also gotten back into the slavery business under a new so-called emperor. So Daenerys decides that she is going to have to stay in Meereen and prove that she can be a ruler and not just someone who goes around causing trouble.
I will do what queens do. I will rule.
Sansa and Baelish arrive at the Bloody Gate. So Sansa now gets inside. She meets Lysa Arryn and creepy Robin Arryn. But then Lysa and Baelish are alone, and then she starts kissing them, and they're making out.
Oh my God.
Lysa loves Baelish, and she always has loved Baelish. And
she puts her whole mouth on his face.
And besides that, she'll also do anything for him. It was his orders to poison Jon Arryn, and his orders to write Catelyn Stark.
We find out a lot.
And in order to shut her up properly, they get married that same moment, actually, and then have the loudest sex that has ever been sexed in the history of sex.
She had the minister waiting outside the door, and he's like, let me take a bath and then I'll get the minister. All right away.
All right, so Cersei and Tywin have a talk about marriage. Then Tywin actually lets Cersei in on the real truth of the situation. They need House Tyrell because the Lannisters are dead fucking broke, and they all owe the Iron Bank a crap ton of money, so they need House Tyrell's money. All right.
Yeah.
We see the Arya and the Hound. Arya's getting ready for bed one night, and she practices her list.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister, the Red Woman, Beric Dondarrion, Thoros of Myr, Ilyn Payne, the Mountain, and the Hound.
Lysa visits Sansa and loses her shit about maybe Sansa wants Baelish or fucked him or something like that. But then Lysa hints that she's going to marry Robin someday, so Sansa has that to look forward to.
Right, at that moment she realizes she's just a pussy pawn.
Arya is practicing her water dancing. The Hound mocks her relentlessly, so she tries to stab him. It does not work out well for her. Locke is north of the wall with the rest of the Night's Watch guys, and he sees Bran. Carl is about to torture Mira, and then the big fight starts, and the Night's Watch storms in. Locke was about to take Bran away. Bran wargs into Hodor and breaks Hodor loose. Hodor catches up and just destroys Locke. And then the warging is over, and Hodor is just confused. Bran and company, Bran really wants to go after Jon and find him, but Jon has his hands full. He winds up fighting Carl, of course, and Jon would have lost that fight if not for a Craster chick. Then Jon puts a sword through Carl's mouth. It is my favorite kill of the entire show so far.
Back of his skull through his mouth.
It's amazing. They're never going to be able to outdo that one. Craster's daughters, they decide to just burn fucking everything to the ground. They'll find their way on their own. They do not want to go back into a world full of men.
Burn it all. Episode 6, The Laws of Gods and Men. So Stannis and Davos are at the Iron Bank, and they deny their loan request.
They are not impressed by him.
No. But then Davos, of course, is able to talk them into giving them the money to fund their sellsword army. Yara and her warriors are on their way to free Theon, and then when they find him, he's in the dog kennels. Theon is freaking out. He's screaming, I'm Reek, I'm Reek. And Ramsay comes in, and fighting ensues, of course. He ends up unlocking the dog kennels, and Yara must leave without Theon. She says, my brother is dead.
Right.
Yeah, he wouldn't leave. Stupid asshole. Ramsay rewards him by bathing him. That was a really weird scene.
I think he was just trying to be nice. He was trying to give that rare reward that
what
you can get. What
happened when it came to wash his pee whole time?
Probably didn't.
No.
Just let that soak.
Then Ramsay asked him to pretend to be Theon Greyjoy.
To help take Moat Cailin.
Over in the Marine area, Drogon the Black barbecues some goats, and the herders come to complain to Dany. Hisdar, the son of one of the crucified masters, shows up, and he tells Dany that his papa wasn't so bad, and he asks for permission to bury his father.
He wants to keep traditions going. It's a big theme coming up.
She ends up granting him the right. Over at the Westeros Council meetings, Varys discusses how Barristan and Jorah are now on Team Targaryen. Tyrion stands trial, and Tywin calls all of Tyrion's enemies as witnesses to all of his wrongdoings, but they don't have anybody in support of him. Pycelle confirms that Joffrey was indeed poisoned, and the poison had been stolen from his store. Cersei quotes the ashes in her mouth line by Tyrion, remember that?
Of course.
Varys accuses Tyrion of being soft on the north because of Sansa.
Yeah, the Varys one was pretty disappointing.
He had a plan. We know this.
He always has a plan.
Jaime confronts Tywin about the inevitability of Tyrion's execution, and Tywin offers Jaime an ultimatum. Remember what that is?
Jaime said, I'll go make babies if Tyrion gets to live.
And Tywin says, all right. Then Shae testifies against Tyrion. She says Sansa wanted Joffrey dead, and Tyrion helped her to make that happen.
It also means Shae didn't get away on a boat, which Bronn said she totally left on a boat. She was gone on the boat.
How could he do that?
Maybe someone got to Bronn first.
Tyrion admits that he's guilty, but not of the murders. He's guilty of being a dwarf. And Tywin says, you're not on trial for being a dwarf.
He has been his whole life.
And he's going to let the gods decide his fate and demands a trial by combat.
Combat.
Yeah, here we go again.
I'm sure it's going to end fine.
It'll be great.
Yeah.
Episode 7, Mockingbird.
All right, Jaime is really mad at Tyrion for asking for a trial by combat. Tyrion's really hoping that Bronn will prove to be his champion. Cersei, meanwhile, has her champion. It's the Mountain. The third mountain that we've had in this show, and the final mountain, I think. We find Arya and the Hound. They see some smoke. They find a dying farmer. The Hound gives the dude a drink, which seems nice, and then stabs him right in the heart. Then enter Biter. Biter jumps on Hound and bites his neck. Hound snaps his neck. And then there's Rorge. Arya recognizes him, but she doesn't know his name. And as soon as he says Rorge, she pulls out her needle and stabs him right in the heart. Good girl. Jon comes home from Craster's Keep. Jon meets with the rest of the Night's Watch, and he suggests sealing the tunnel, but Alistair tells him he's a fucking idiot, and they knock that suggestion down. Bronn finally visits Tyrion looking super fancy, new clothes, lots of money has been spent. He is about to wed Lawless Stokeworth. Cersei was definitely involved, and Tyrion knew it instantly. And Bronn will not champion him. That sucks, but I think it explains everything about Shae. Dario, over in Marine, he snuck into Daenerys' room with a bunch of flowers, and he begs for a mission because he's only good at fucking and fighting, and she won't fuck him. But then she thinks about it for a minute and then orders him to disrobe.
Mm-hmm.
Hey! Melisandre is naked in a bath. Selyse comes to gawp at her and hang out. Selyse talks about how Stannis wants to bring Shireen on their trip, and we find out that the Lord of Light needs her. Daenerys is sending Dario to retake Yunkai and kill all the masters this time. Jorah talks her out of that, and she says that Hisdar will be the ambassador that goes along with. Hound is trying to sew up his bite from Biter. Arya wants to help with fire. Fire bad! It's a real Frankenstein kind of reaction. But then Hound calms down and has a tender moment about how he got hurt and what it's like to truly be alone because he's such a freakazoid and his family hates him.
Poor Hound.
And then Arya feels a little twinge and she helps him wash it and sew it up. Brienne treats Podrick to a nice night at the inn, and they meet Hot Pie, who won't shut up. But she asks about the Starks. He gets kind of scared and wanders off. But then later on, he confesses that he actually knew Arya, and he gives them an awesome wolf bread to give to Arya later on.
It looked yummy.
But they talk that out about Arya heading for the Wall, and eventually they think that maybe they should try the Eyrie, and Sansa could be there too. Oberyn visits Tyrion. They have a long talk. Oberyn has everyone that he wants vengeance on right here, right now in King's Landing, so he will champion Tyrion. Sansa builds a snow Winterfell, and then Robin visits, and it's actually going okay for a while, but then he accidentally knocks over part of one of the towers, and then they both act like such stupid little shits over him breaking that, and then she slaps him, and then Baelish just creeps on up, and then he talks a little bit about loving Cat and how Sansa could have been his daughter, and then he creep kisses her, because he's a creep, and Lysa was watching from far, far away.
Oh, right.
Lysa then calls Sansa to the throne room, which is never a good thing, and freaks out again and tries to toss Sansa out of the moon door, but Baelish stops her. She's crying, and he's all tender. There's only one woman that I've ever loved my entire life. And he said, your sister, and he pushes her out the fucking moon door.
It was awesome.
It was pretty awesome.
All right, episode 8, The Mountain and the Viper. We're in Molestown, where the gross lady that keeps showing up is bullying Gilly. All of a sudden, all these wildlings are upon them, and there's a huge slaughter. Like, the whole place is blood dripping from the ceiling. Ygritte leaves Gilly and Sam alone.
Shh.
Sam feels guilty now about leaving Gilly there, and all the guys convince Sam that maybe she got out. And Jon knows that the wildlings are coming. The Unsullied and the ladies are getting clean in the river, and Grey Worm likes naked Missandei. Then Grey Worm comes to apologize to Missandei, and she says she's happy he saw her, and he is too. Over with Theon, he's all dressed up like he's a real lord.
Like a real boy.
He's going to go take Moat Cailin, and the commander didn't want to give it up, but then one of his people axed him in the head.
They've been promised that they can go home if they just leave.
Right. So in comes Ramsay, and they flay them all. Baelish is meeting with the Eyrie Council about Lysa Arryn's suspicious death, and they call on Sansa. They don't trust him. She reveals that she's actually Sansa Stark, and she says that Peter's been lying to them to protect her. She backed up his story in the end about Lysa committing suicide.
She sure did.
Baelish asks for the Eyrie to support Lord Robin leaving the nest. He wants to teach him how to be a real man, and they say, yes, let's do this.
And that the Vale has been sitting idly too long, and it's been helping the Lannisters too much. They need to get in on the action.
Right. Over in Marine, Barristan Selmy gets some mail from the hand of the king saying that Jorah has been pardoned.
Yeah, it was the letter signed by Robert years ago. I don't know how they got another copy of it, but so be it.
Jorah stands before the queen, and Jorah tells her that the attempted assassinations were basically his own fault, and Dany tells him to leave town.
Yep, he's out.
He's out. Ramsay and his dad meet up in the field, and Moat Cailin is theirs. Roose says that the North is his and gives Ramsay his adoption papers. He's now a Bolton. They ride for Winterfell. Over with the Hound and Arya, they arrive at the Eyrie, where they learn that Lysa died 3 days ago. Arya laughs hysterically, and they turn around.
It was an awesome laughter. She's just so adorable.
Sansa makes her dark appearance for the first time.
Oh, yes.
Tyrion is still talking to Jaime, who's waiting with him for their trial by death.
Trial by death?
Well, that's what I call it. Trial by death.
Trial by combat?
Whoever dies, basically.
Okay, well, sure, all right.
Tyrion's nervous about Oberyn drinking and not wearing armor, and he does the whole Princess Bride thing. Yeah. I am Oberyn Martell, brother of Elia Martell, who was raped and murdered and killed her children. And Oberyn then gets his head squashed like a fucking melon.
Which did not happen to Inigo Montoya.
No. Tywin pronounces Tyrion guilty and orders his execution.
Yep. Most gruesome death in the show, I think.
Yeah. It was really squashed like a melon. Like somebody took a sledgehammer to a melon.
Like a Gallagher show.
Whew. Episode 9, The Watchers on the Wall.
All right, so this whole thing takes place at the Wall. So the wildlings, Tormund's talking about the time he fucked a bear, which isn't important, it's just funny. And Gilly makes it to Castle Black. She did not die in the wildling raid after all.
Hooray, Gilly!
And she gets there just in time for the huge bonfire that will signal the beginning of the tremendous battle of Castle Black. Mm-hmm. Up at the top of the wall, Alliser admits Jon was right about sealing the tunnel. Sam hides Gilly in the larder, and he also kisses her. Pulls her in for that goodbye kiss, but promises he won't die. Then the wildlings start coming in from both sides. So we have the Tormund Giantsbane raiding party, and then we also have the giant army with giants in it on the other side of the wall. Alliser leaves the top of the wall to lead the lower castle battle, and he puts Jaina Slint in charge at the top of the wall. Not a great idea. The mammoth plan appears to be to pull down the gate via ropes and hooks. The Slint is useless, so they trick him away and send him down below. Jon takes over the top of the wall. Then, in the middle of the battle, Pip, who was an archer, takes an egret to the neck. And he just drowns in his own blood. Gren is ordered to hold the tunnel. He takes a team down below. They go into the tunnel because one of the giants is going to try to get in there, and they got to hold it.
They killed the giant's friend.
Yes, they did manage to scare off the mammoths with an explosion, and then they used one of their ballistas to take down the old-looking giant.
Ooh, ballista. You're so nerdy.
Which makes the other giant very angry, and he starts raging his way, pulling the gate up. Sam runs to try to find Jon up top. On his way up, he tells Ollie to fight. Kind of an important thing Sam did there. Jon goes down to help at Sam's begging, leaving Ed in charge up top. Gren and his men say their vows as the giant charges at them inside the tunnel, and then it just cuts away. Jon starts kicking wildling ass all over the place while Sam lets Ghost out, who starts eating some wildling necks. Then the big Fen dude finds Jon. He sees him across the room and just beats him almost to death. But Jon manages to pull a hammer, gets the guy right in the skull. Egret sees Jon from across the way, and she's holding her arrow at him, but then they love each other, and you hear the violin starts playing, and then she takes an arrow from Ollie right through the chest and dies.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Ed drops the scythe, which is one of the wall defenses. I fucking love it. It's amazing. The scythe comes out and just splatters a bunch of climbers.
Scrapes them off the wall.
And then the wildlings retreat, seemingly. And down below, thanks to Jon and Ghost, Tormund is the only wildling left down there, and he gets captured. Sam returns to Gilly and Jaina Slint, much to his surprise. The next morning, Jon is talking about how Mance was just testing their defenses, and he's going to be back. So Jon's just going to go out there, and he's going to try to find Mance, and he's going to try to kill him. He goes into the tunnel where they find Gren and all of his men and the giant all dead. But they did it. They held the gate.
They sure did.
And then Jon gives Longclaw to Sam because he had promised that he would never lose it again, and he leaves north.
Episode 10, here we go, the children. Jon goes to negotiate with Mance Rayder. Mance wants safe access through the tunnel. He's trying to get away from the White Walkers. Stannis' Ridicule army shows up, and Mance and Stannis and Davos meet. They want Mance to kneel, but he refuses. And Jon tells Stannis to spare Mance and hear him out.
He does surrender. He just won't kneel.
Right. Cersei dismisses Pycelle permanently, and Qyburn is going to take his place. He's the new maester.
I don't know that we've gotten that far yet, but she did kick him out of his own lab because...
Oh, right. He's working on the mountain.
He says he can save him. He'll be changed, but it won't weaken him.
Tyrion sentences to be carried out tomorrow, and Cersei declares that she will stay in King's Landing to Tywin. She admits to Tywin that Jaime is her baby daddy. Tywin is still in denial, even when she says it. Cersei then comes and sees Jaime, and she kisses him, and she tells him what she admitted to Tywin, and then they F on the big table. A prior slave sees Khaleesi and tells her that they need to let the masters buy them back. Otherwise, they have nowhere to go, really. They have no jobs, right?
No homes. Yeah.
So Dany allows a work contract between the masters and slaves.
Yep.
The man with 3-year-old little toddler kid that Drogon burned, she then decides she's got to chain up Rhaegal and Viserion in the dragon kennels.
Yeah, they didn't do anything wrong.
Right, but she can't. She can't wait for them to do something wrong.
I guess not.
Castle Black has a funeral pyre for the dead. Giantsbane dude, I couldn't remember his name at the time, but it's Tormund, says Egret should be burned in the north. So Jon takes her personally out there. Bran and the clan are making their way still. Actually, they arrived at the weirwood tree, and then all of a sudden skeletons come popping out of the ground.
They sure do.
Bran then wargs into Hodor, and he kicks ass. It looks like all is lost, though, because they're getting all ganged up on until the tree people show up and they start throwing their magic bombs.
Just one tree person.
And Jojen is now dying from multiple stab wounds.
Yep.
And more skeletons are coming, so they all run for the cave. Finally find a dude who has fused himself with a tree. He's the three-eyed raven, apparently. I'm not sure. Bran asks.
Yes.
Tree dude tells him Bran will never walk, but he will fly. Over with Brienne, she stumbles upon Arya after their horses are stolen. The Hound and Brienne fight over Arya. Hound grabs her sword and cuts the shit out of his hands. And then he kicks her in the cunt really, really hard. She bites off his ear.
She punched him in the balls first.
She goes berserker on him.
She does.
And then he falls down a cliff. Arya finds him later. He begs her to kill her, and she just walks away. She takes his money and walks away.
Sure does.
Jaime arrives in the middle of the night to free Tyrion from the dungeon. He tells him Varys is helping. But instead of climbing the steps of freedom, he heads to his daddy's room. And guess who he finds there? He and Shay wrestle, and he chokes her with a golden necklace, and then he takes Joffrey's crossbow and finds Tywin on the shitter. Tywin calls Shay a whore. He wants to know why he sentenced him to die, and Tywin calls her a whore again, and then Tyrion shoots him for the first time. Tywin tries to reason with him one more time, and then Tyrion shoots him with the final blow after he calls him not my son.
He said, "You're no son of mine."
Varys helps him get on the boat, and then Varys gets on too. Arya books passage to Braavos with the code word Vala Morghulis.
And her special iron coin.
Yes.
Pretty exciting. Holy crap. I sound Irish. Holy crap.
Holy crap.
That was exhausting.
Woo.
So that's
we talk so fast.
Well, we do talk pretty fast when we have to, but then it's nice to just take it slow.
Catch your breath.
Nice and slow. With my mouth and my fingers. Okay, so listen, here's as you know, there are, when we watch the show and prepare our notes and all that, I'm sitting there sometimes telling you, like, babe, you seem like you're typing an awful lot for something that I know we can't cover in the 30-minute episode. But you had something really cool, I thought, really cool observation. So I just want to bring it back now that the real recap is done. I just want you to give us your take on this. It was the right before Tyrion's trial. He was sitting in a cell talking to Jaime, and they were just reminiscing, and they wind up talking about Orson Lannister.
Right.
I assume, and I haven't seen this in the books, but I'm going to assume that Orson is spelled Orsyn.
Probably so.
Because this is Westeros.
Yes.
So Orson Lannister and the Beatles, not
right.
the Beatles.
Tyrion talks about how he was fascinated by their cousin who was dropped on his head when he was a baby and therefore became mentally handicapped.
Right. And I watched the story and I just don't quite get it. I mean, Tyrion is obviously in a bad place, a dark place.
He's going on and on.
But I don't know what's going on. But you pulled something interesting out of it that I don't know if it was intentional or not, but let's hear it.
Okay, so I felt like it was a little bit of foreshadowing or just a link.
Yeah, Orson was the slow cousin, right?
Slow
cousin.
He was
dropped on his head.
Right, he would sit there all day long with a rock crushing beetles, saying, "Smash beetle! Hey, smash beetle!" And Tyrion could not, for the life of him, figure out why he was doing it. He said there must be a reason. Mm-hmm. And I thought of Hodor automatically, how he got his head smashed. And then the whole reason he says Hodor, of course, is hold the door in the future episodes. And not that smash beetle or anything like that, I could pull what that meant. But I thought that it was a little bit of foreshadowing that Tyrion said there must have been a reason for all of the beetles being slaughtered. The beetle slaughter. Massacre. Right.
Like there was something deeper going on in Orson's head somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so Tyrion was never able to figure it out. And like Orson died, I think, young. He got kicked by a mule or something. Right. But
smash be tell. Maybe he was supposed to tell somebody something.
Or maybe it's someone named
Batel.
Brian Tellerson.
Baelish. Peter. Somehow that's Beetle.
Peter Beetle. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's interesting.
It was a very long conversation.
Since Orson was actually dropped on his head, whereas Hodor was destroyed from the inside out, I don't know that we should necessarily read into it that smash beetles or ka-chung, like he was always saying, didn't necessarily mean anything. Like he was just literally brain damage from being dropped on his head. But the whole point of it must have meant something. Mm-hmm. Really, I'm fascinated by that. I wonder if there is something to that outside of your observation, and maybe that story really did mean something in the bigger picture of the world, not necessarily the Lannister's life, but because this is storytelling and they're talking about a simpleton, there really is only one other simpleton in the show. Mm-hmm. And it turns out his words did mean something. Right. So that's pretty cool, babe. I just want to give you a big kudos on that because it's not in our 30-minute recap. There's no time to discuss that shit in a 30-minute recap.
No theory.
So I hope you're not offended by that, but I wanted to talk about it here when we can slow it down.
Well, thanks for including it here.
I guess I don't know. That's about it for me. It's been fun. Oh, and now that we finished season 4, I think I'm done with seasons 1 through 4.
No more?
If the day comes when we dare to watch this shit with our kids, then okay. Because then I'm watching it with someone that's never seen it before. That's going to totally add to the experience. But just you and me watching it again? No. I don't think I need to watch this show anymore. It's already been at least three times that we've watched these seasons. Season 5, I can't remember if we watched it 3 times or not. Maybe not. But this season 1 through 4, yeah. And that's enough.
That's a lot of hours.
I feel like I know it pretty well now. It's 40 hours of our lives, a full work week.
Yeah. And it's a lot of work too.
Oh man, we should have just taken a week off of work and did all the recaps all at once.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. And we would have felt so like dirty and lazy afterwards, just sitting around in underpants all day, just watching Game of Thrones nonstop. The rest of the world is actually being productive.
Sounds like a great week.
But I'm looking forward to season 5 and definitely season 6 because we never did rewatch it until now. So
I know,
it's
I
gonna
can't
be really
wait.
cool. Yeah, we'll watch it so we're fresh right before season 7 premieres. All right. Anything else, babe?
Nope.
Okay. Then I'm just exhausted after all the fingers and mouths I was just doing to make podcasts awesome. So
stay tuned.
Let's go to sleep and then let's wake up tomorrow fresh and start cramming more Game of Thrones in.
Season 5 coming.
It's coming. It's coming. Oh yeah, it's coming.